If you live long enough, you begin to understand this. Every person who enters your life leaves something behind. Some bring happiness, some bring experience, some bring painful lessons, and a rare few leave you with memories that stay with you for the rest of your life. At first, we don't see it that way. We become attached. We expect people to stay forever. We believe certain relationships will never change. But life has a way of teaching us otherwise. Some people enter your life during your hardest seasons just to help you survive them. Some appear when you are lost, confused, or becoming someone you no longer recognize. And sometimes a single conversation with the right person can quietly change the direction of your entire life. But not every person comes to bring comfort. Some people arrive to disappoint you, to betray you, to test your patience, to force you to see things about yourself you were avoiding. And painful as those experiences may be, they often become the moments that mature us the most, because wisdom rarely comes from comfort alone. Many of the strongest people you will ever meet were shaped by heartbreak, rejection, loneliness, failure, and loss. Life teaches through people, through love, through disappointment, through absence, through goodbye. And if you pay attention, you'll notice something else. The people who hurt you often teach you boundaries. The people who leave teach you independence. The people who believe in you teach you confidence. And the people who truly love you teach you peace. Nothing is wasted. Every relationship carries a lesson. Every connection leaves a mark. Every person changes you in some way. That is why maturity is not learning how to hate the people who hurt you. It is learning how to understand what they came into your life to teach you. The people who came to build you. Every man, if he examines his life honestly, can identify 2 or 3 people whose influence shaped the direction of everything that followed. Not necessarily the most prominent people, not necessarily the people who spent the most years in his life. Often they are quieter figures, a teacher, a mentor, a parent who said something once that lodged itself so deeply that it is still visible decades later in the choices the man makes. What did these people have in common? In my observation, they shared one quality above all others. They saw something in the man, or in the younger version of the man, before he could see it in himself. They held a higher picture of what he was capable of before his own picture had reached that level. And they communicated that picture, not through flattery, not through the easy reassurance that asks nothing in return, but through the particular form of belief that expects the person to rise to meet it. This is one of the rarest and most valuable things one human being can offer another. The expectation that the other person is more than they have yet demonstrated. The willingness to hold that expectation clearly, consistently, and without retreating from it when the person fails to meet it temporarily. The greatest gift one person can offer another is not comfort in the difficulty. It is the clear and sustained belief, maintained through the difficulty, that the person is capable of something more than the difficulty suggests. The mentor who arrives uninvited. Not all of the people who came to build announced themselves. Some of them did not even know they were doing it. A man who, by his daily conduct, demonstrated a quality of character that a younger man observed and quietly decided to make his own. A woman whose way of facing her circumstances, with a particular combination of honesty and grace, became, for the person who witnessed it, a model for how difficult things could be handled. These people rarely know the full extent of what they left behind. The influence was given without intention and received without announcement. And yet it became, in the life of the person who absorbed it, one of the most formative things they ever encountered. This is worth reflecting on, because it suggests that the influence a person has on the people around them is not limited to the moments of deliberate guidance. It runs in the ordinary hours, in the quality of daily conduct, in the way difficulty is met, in the standard a person holds for themselves when the observation of others would not require it. The person who does these things well is building something in the people near them, whether or not they ever know it. the friend who arrived at exactly the right moment. There is a particular kind of person whose significance is determined almost entirely by timing. They enter a man's life at the precise point when a different voice, a different perspective, a different quality of presence is exactly what he needed. And their impact, disproportionate to the length of the relationship, reshapes the direction of everything that follows. A man who has been in the wrong work for a decade and who meets, in a casual encounter, someone who asks him a single question he has never been asked before. A person in the depths of a private grief who receives, from someone they barely know, exactly the right acknowledgement, not the false comfort, but the honest recognition that what they are carrying is real and that they will carry it through. These moments seem like coincidence. Whether they are or not is a question beyond the scope of this recording. What is not beyond it is the observation that the people involved, on both sides, are transformed by the encounter, the one who received the timely word, and the one who, without fully knowing why, offered it. The people who came to test you. Every man of any age has known at least one person whose primary effect on his life was to cause him genuine pain, a betrayal that altered the way he trusted people afterward, a rejection that forced a revision of his understanding of himself. A person who, by their conduct toward him, showed him something about human nature, or about his own nature, that he had not seen clearly before and could not unsee afterward. Most people, when they encounter these figures in their past, carry them as wounds, and the wound is real. I want to be clear about that. The betrayal was real. The pain was real. The cost was real. None of what follows is an argument for pretending otherwise. But a wound and a lesson are not mutually exclusive. The same experience can be both, and a man who carries only the wound, who organizes his understanding of the experience entirely around what was done to him, has taken the pain without the return. The person who broke your trust taught you what trust actually requires to be given safely. That teaching came at a cost, but it was teaching, whether or not it was offered as such. What the difficult people specifically teach. The person who betrayed a man's trust teaches him something no comfortable relationship could: the specific conditions under which trust is genuinely warranted, and the specific conditions under which it is not. This is not cynicism, it is discernment. And discernment applied well is one of the most valuable capacities a man can develop. The person who rejected him teaches him something about the relationship between his own worth and another person's willingness to recognize it. They are not the same thing. A man's worth is not determined by any particular person's assessment of it. This knowledge, stated plainly, sounds simple. It takes a rejection of some depth to make it genuinely felt rather than merely understood. The person who disappointed him repeatedly teaches him something about the distance between what people say they will do and what they actually do, and more usefully, about the wisdom of building a life that does not depend entirely on others meeting their commitments. None of these lessons were offered kindly. None of them came wrapped in the intention to help. The people who delivered them were, in most cases, simply acting in accordance with their own nature, their own fears, limitations, and particular combination of qualities that made them capable of causing that particular kind of harm. But the lesson arrived regardless, and the man who receives it and uses it, who converts the pain into genuine understanding rather than simply adding the experience to his list of grievances, that man has extracted something of real value from a transaction that might otherwise have produced only damage. The person you cannot yet forgive. The difficulty of forgiveness is not, in most cases, a question of moral failure. It is a question of what forgiveness is understood to mean. Most people understand it as the restoration of the relationship, or as the declaration that what was done was acceptable, or as the surrender of the legitimate grievance. And against that understanding, the refusal to forgive is often entirely reasonable. But there is another understanding of forgiveness that has nothing to do with the other person at all. It is the private decision to stop allowing the past experience to consume current energy, to carry the lesson without continuing to carry the wound. To put down the weight, not for the sake of the person who placed it there, but for the sake of the life that is still being lived and that deserves the full measure of a man's attention and energy. This is not easy. It is among the most demanding things a man can attempt. But the alternative, carrying a wound that cannot be resolved, that colors every subsequent experience with its particular shade of bitterness, costs more over years than the effort of putting it down. The people who came and then left. Some of the most significant people in a man's life are not the ones who stayed. They are the ones whose presence, for whatever period it lasted, left a mark that the years have not diminished. The friend from the early years whose life moved in a different direction. The mentor who died before the man had fully absorbed what he was being taught. The relationship that was genuine and that ended not because it failed, but because the circumstances of two lives eventually pulled them apart. These absences carry a different quality of loss from the ones produced by betrayal. They are cleaner, in a way, uncontaminated by anger, but they carry their own particular weight, the weight of what was real and is now gone. Of a person who cannot be replaced, not because no one else is valuable, but because what was shared between these two specific people was particular to them and is not available again. Not every ending is a failure. Some of the most significant relationships in a man's life were exactly as long as they needed to be, and their ending was not a tragedy, but a completion. What departure teaches? A man who has experienced the departure of someone who genuinely mattered and handled it without bitterness, without the attempt to hold on past the natural end, without diminishing what was real in order to make the ending easier, that man has learned something that no amount of stability could teach. He has learned that he can survive loss. This is not a small thing. The fear of loss in most people is larger than the actual experience of loss. The anticipation of it produces an anxiety that distorts the choices made while the relationship is alive. The holding on too tightly, the refusal to be fully present because the present feels too temporary, the protective withdrawal that ensures the relationship never reaches its full potential because the full potential feels too much to lose. The man who has survived a genuine loss, who has gone through the grief honestly and come out the other side with his capacity for connection intact, knows something that the man who has never lost anything does not. He knows the grief is survivable, and that knowledge frees him, in subsequent relationships, to be more fully present, to hold more loosely, to love without the defensive armor that fear of loss installs. The friend who arrived for one season. There is a category of relationship that a man sometimes dismisses because of its brevity, a friendship that lasted a year, a colleague who was present for one chapter of a working life, a relationship that existed in a specific context and ended when the context changed. These brief associations deserve more serious consideration than they typically receive. The influence of a person does not correlate reliably with the length of the relationship. A single conversation at the right moment can leave a deposit that shapes the years that follow. A friendship of one intense year can plant something that takes a decade to grow into full visibility. Nothing is wasted. The brief connections, as much as the long ones, leave their mark, sometimes more clearly, because their brevity concentrates what they brought, rather than diffusing it across the ordinary days. How to read the lesson. The capacity to learn from human experience is not automatic. Most people do not learn from experience, they simply accumulate it. The same pattern of choosing the wrong person recurs, because the lesson of the previous instance was never genuinely received. The same form of difficulty appears in a new relationship, because the understanding that would prevent it was never built. Experience without reflection is simply repetition. Reflection requires something most people are reluctant to give it: genuine honesty about one's own role in what happened, not the excessive self-blame that converts every difficult experience into evidence of personal failure. But the clear-eyed examination of what the man contributed to the situation, what he missed, what he chose, what he declined to see because seeing it would have required a change he was not ready to make. A man who asks only what another person did to him has received half the information available from the experience. The other half is in the question he is not asking. What did my own choices, habits, or patterns of seeing contribute to this outcome? The three questions. The first: what did this person add to my life that I genuinely received? Not what I wish they had given, not what they intended to give, but what was actually transferred. What quality of thinking, what experience, what understanding is now present in me that was not present before they arrived? The second: what did this person reveal about me? Every significant relationship functions as a mirror. It shows aspects of a man's character, his patience, his generosity, his capacity for jealousy or resentment or genuine love. That less demanding relationships never bring to the surface. The difficult relationship in particular is a remarkably revealing mirror. What did it show? The third: what pattern, if any, does this experience share with previous experiences? If a man finds the same difficulty recurring across different relationships with different people, the common factor is not the other people, it is him. And that recognition, uncomfortable as it is the most useful information available. Because a pattern recognized can be changed. A pattern that remains unconscious simply repeats. Carrying the lesson without carrying the wound. The goal of this reflection is not to produce a clean account of what happened. It is to extract something useful from the experience and then to put the experience itself down. A man who has genuinely learned from a difficult relationship does not need to keep rehearsing it. The lesson is present in him, in the way he now reads certain situations. In the care he now applies to certain choices, in the understanding he now brings to the people who show him the early signals that the previous difficult person also showed. The lesson is working. The experience itself can be released. Nothing is wasted. This is a claim that most people, when they encounter it in the middle of a genuinely painful experience, find unconvincing. The failed relationship does not feel like it was building something. The betrayal does not feel like instruction. The grief does not feel like preparation for anything. It feels like loss, which is what it is. I am not suggesting that the pain was not real, or that the experience was secretly beneficial in a way that only requires a different perspective to appreciate. Some experiences are genuinely damaging, and pretending otherwise is a form of dishonesty that serves no one. What I am suggesting is something more modest, that the experience, even the genuinely damaging one, contains information that a man can choose to use. And that the choice to use it, rather than simply carrying the damage forward, is what converts the experience from pure cost into something that also produced something of value. The value is not given automatically. It is extracted by the reflection, by the honest examination, by the willingness to ask what the experience was, for rather than simply cataloging what it cost. Nothing is wasted in the life of a man who pays genuine attention to what his experience is teaching him. The same events in the life of a man who does not pay attention produce nothing but their immediate effect, which in the case of the difficult ones is only pain. The difference between these two men is not fortune or circumstance, it is attention, and attention is something every man can choose to give. So think of the people who have mattered most in your life, not only the ones who were easiest, all of them, the ones who built something in you, the ones who tested you past what you thought you could bear. The ones who left before you were ready, the ones whose leaving in retrospect was the only thing that could have pushed you toward the life you eventually built. Each one came for a reason. The reason was not always comfort. It was not always clarity. Sometimes the reason only becomes visible years after the person has gone, but it was there. Maturity is not the decision to harden yourself against loss. It is the decision to remain open to what loss, honestly examined, has to teach. Pay attention to the people in your life today, not only the easy ones, all of them. Ask what they are here to teach. Ask what you are here to teach them. And trust that nothing, not a single genuine encounter, not a single relationship that cost you something, is without its lesson, if you are willing to pay attention.